Hey everyone, and welcome back to our city, Lakewood. Today's episode is going to focus on re-implementing and finalizing the layout of our oil industry that we leveled up a few episodes ago, and this will be the fifth and final industry for our city. The items produced in the oil industry will be important for future episodes when we start putting in unique factories. Our oil industry is going to be just off to the side of our ore industry near the edge of the city. However, it's going to be a little bit more compact compared to our ore industry that has the big open pit mine and tailings pile. I couldn't think of too much more to add cosmetically. I think the assets that the game already provides to us in the oil industry does a really good job at showing off the oil industry itself. The only thing that I really could think of was there is a unique factory, the petroleum refinery. I think it makes sense that the petroleum refinery is within our oil industry. So other than that, that's really the only additional thing that I'm going to add. If you can think of anything, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, and I'll think about adding it in a future episode. Now, as for the layout for our oil industry, I've gone ahead and I've planned this a little bit ahead of time, mostly just so it seems like I know what I'm talking about, but trust me, it is the complete opposite. I do tend to struggle, just like everybody else, to come up with something that I can use for the city. So I have gone through one or two or three or four different iterations of this oil industry before I settled on what I think will work out well for the city. And so when I'm talking about putting in different roads and things like that, I will be using the small industry road as well as the 2-lane one-way small industry road. So these two roads do cost the same amount of money. So whenever I'm putting in roads here and I'm talking about prices and costs and things like that, that is the road that I'm using. So if you're following along, or if you're trying to build a similar oil industry in your city, that is what I will be using. So to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to just upgrade this 4-lane collector road for right now, just so that I can have it as a 2-lane road for comparing to my own little drawing off to the side here. And the entry to our oil industry will start by going down to 870 units across, and then we're going to be going up 480. So that will be the entry road to our oil industry. We're going to make sure that this is off, and it is. So we're going to just keep it off to the side here for right now, and we will move it into the industry once our road layout is complete. So from here, we are going to switch to the directional road, the 2-lane one-way small industry road. And the reason for that is I just want to make sure that I can control the traffic going through the industry. So just like what we have in our ore industry, we do have our one-way roads to control traffic, as well as our fishing, farming, and forestry industries. They all have one-way roads that can control the traffic. As you can see, it does tend to get quite busy, so we want to make sure that we can avoid any sort of congestion as much as possible. All right, so from here, we are going to go across 660 units, just like that, up 720 from there, and then across 660 again as well. So for right here, this will be the storage facilities for the oil industry. So in the oil industry, we do have, let's go back to the oil industry tab, we do have the large crude oil tank farms. So this is where we're going to have those. So that will be the storage of our raw resources. We're going to have the entryways to these two right here, just on this bottom street, and the entryways to the others on the opposite street across the way. I'm going to actually pause the game for now. You can see we're starting to have issues with our electricity and water for these new buildings that we're putting in. So I want to make sure that I get everything set up first, and then I'll put the utilities in afterwards. So the goal for this oil industry is to have trucks and vehicles coming into the oil industry, and then what they're going to do is they are going to take this first road off to the right, and they are going to deposit any of the raw resources that they're going to be importing. If you recall from previous episodes, we actually did use up all the raw resources in the area. I think if we go to the raw resources tab, and the natural resources tab, pardon me, you can see there's a little bit here and there. We probably won't get too much of anything. I'll probably put a couple in just to have it look kind of neat, but we're not going to rely on extracting our own raw oil resources. Instead, we're going to be relying on the importing of all of the raw resources to be used in the oil industry. Okay, so from here, we are going to go back into our roads, and we are going to go to the 2-lane small industry road, not the directional one, and we're going to just come up 720 units just to complete that. And then from there, we are going to go up 540 units from that. Then we're going to go across 660. And then we're going to just complete that circle as well, or square, I guess it is. And this large square that we have right here, we are going to use for our unique factory, our petroleum refinery. Let's find that again. We will put that in right here. And from here, we're going to go back to our roads, and we are going to go back to the 2-lane one-way small industry road, and we're going to go right across the back side of our petroleum refinery and put that in there. We're also going to take this opportunity to upgrade our 2-lane roads that we put in earlier. Just like that, and then have that come back around the outside edge towards the entranceway. Now this top square that we have up here, we're going to use that for the production buildings for the oil industry. So when I was messing around with the oil industry, I did find out a pretty cool way to put in these buildings. If we start with the naphtha cracker plant, if we put that in right at the top side here, actually we can put it in the top side here or the side over here, it doesn't matter which one we do. I think I'm just going to put it right here for now. And then we can put in the, where is it? I think it's just a little bit back here, the petrochemical plant. You can see these fit in quite well right on the either side of the naphtha cracker plants. And then if we go back in there and we find our waste oil refining plant, that fits in well just on the edges over here. And then we can also go into the oil sludge petrolysis plant. Now these fit well just on the other side of the naphtha cracker plants. And let's put in one more of that kind, and then one more of the waste oil refining. And you can see we have fully filled in this square right here with all of our production buildings, and there's no real gaps around the outside edge. Now, unfortunately, you'll notice that right on the edge of the petroleum refinery, there is a little gap just on the side. It is so close to being almost perfectly lined up with all of the other buildings, the production buildings that we have on the other side, and it doesn't look quite like it should. So what I decided to do was put in a pavement path just along that side there. Just turn off our snaps and just put on the grid. And we can run that along there. There's little gaps just here and there, but for the most part, it sort of blends into what we have. I think it turned out pretty good, so I'm happy with that as it is. And so from here, what I'm going to have just off to the side, unfortunately it looks like I didn't take the best measurements for this little section off to the side, so we'll have to kind of just wing it. And what we do have, we'll come across, turn my snaps back on, we'll come across, let's go 300 across, and then 840 down, and then back across like this. In this section right here, we're going to have a couple warehouses. So if we go back to our garbage and industry tab, into the warehouses tab, we're going to have some of these small warehouses here. I'm going to put one on the edge here, one on the opposite edge, and then one on the middle right over here. So for our petroleum refinery, we can see that we require 3 different raw resources. So we require petroleum, plastics, and metals. I do believe that the raw resources are delivered to the front of the petroleum refinery, which is on the bottom road right over here. So I want to make sure that our warehouses over here get filled up with those 3 raw resources. So we had petroleum, we had, where is it, metal, and then we also had plastics. So what I'm hoping with the flow of traffic going through the area, that the delivery of those raw resources will go to the warehouses here, and then anytime our petroleum refinery needs any of them, they will just simply have to exit the warehouses that are right here and then go along the path and then deliver to the petroleum refinery, and then just circle back around to return to the warehouse. So I'm trying to optimize the production of the oil or the fuels at our petroleum refinery by kind of lining everything up and have the flow of traffic going from raw resource to production to storage of the produced material to being used in the unique factory. That's kind of the goal that we have right here. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we are going to upgrade this 2-lane road again back to 4 lanes, just that we can have our entryway to the oil refinery a little bit better for lots of trucks to come in. We're going to go ahead and we are going to smooth out that corner that's right there as well. So I am going to cut this right like that. Now the front entryway to our oil industry will be just right here. I like to have it on the right hand side because that is where vehicles will come along when they are approaching the facility itself, right on the right hand side. So it makes sense for our front entryway to be there. Now as for the area with our workers barracks, I am not going to worry too much about the direction of traffic. Instead we're just going to stick with the regular 2-lane roads. I'm still going to use the small industry roads at the beginning just so that I can help myself plan it out. I do have, like I said, I do have my little design off to the side where I've been using these roads for the measurements. So I will stick with that for now. And before we get started, I'm going to go to the level terrain tool and I'm just going to flatten out the area here. This is actually the second time I've filmed this segment, and unfortunately the grids for the roads don't actually line up quite well, the grids for putting in the buildings. So I'd like to just flatten out the area a little bit before we get started to try and help us out for when we get to that point for putting in the buildings. See if this helps us. Okay, so from here, we're going to go and we are going to just go off of the 4-lane collector road off to the side. We're going to go 180 units down, or 210, why not? It doesn't really matter right now. And then from there, we'll go off to the side 270, down 600, back across 540, and we're going to complete this square. From here, we're going to go off of the middle, and we're going to go 420 units across this way, up 270 on either side. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I took any measurements for how wide this section has to be, so we're going to have to put in some buildings here real quick first. So back into our oil industry tab, near the front, we have our oil industry workers barracks. Now the benefit of these barracks is that it adds 5% work efficiency for each building. So we're going to throw in a bunch of these buildings just to make sure that we have optimal efficiency for our oil industry. So we'll do 4 across each side of this first big square here. And you can see my grid still doesn't quite line up. So we're going to have to be pretty careful to try and fit all of these buildings in. Looks like we're going to get it in all right anyway. And you can see it's having a little bit of difficulty lining up with this road right here. It does have a gap in the zoning grid right here, which is making it a little bit difficult for us to get this building onto this section. So I think it'll fit on the other side. Let's see that. Even on the other side here, it does look like it's missing a little bit of the grid. So it is also struggling to get a building in there. There we go. We got that one. And we got that one right there. Perfect. We're also going to put a couple along this road right here in between the two sections. So we'll have that like that. And then we're going to put 4 just in the end here. 2 on either side of that road. And then we're going to just complete this square like so. And this will be our workers' barracks area. So that should be 20 buildings, which will give us an additional 100% worker efficiency. And another thing I'd like to add in here while we're working on the area, so I'd like to add in a couple parks. So we'll go in and we'll put in a basketball court. I think that would be good, as well as a small park just on the other side over here, just like that. And what I'm also going to do is I am going to upgrade all of these roads, so we don't need industry roads here. There's no I'm not anticipating any truck traffic anyway to go through the area. So I think it would be nice for us to upgrade it to the 2-lane road with trees. So we'll just go through the area and do that. I think that looks much nicer than the industry road. And then we're also, before we get started, we're going to go through and we are going to adjust the junction. So as we found out before, the game does like to put in the stoplights. So we're going to take that one out and we're going to put in a stop sign instead. And we're also going to take out the stoplight right here. That'll just allow the free flow of traffic through our industry. And then that should be enough for what we need to do. The last thing I'd like to add in, just for some cosmetics, if we go back into our oil industry tab and we search through the menu here, we do have this building here, the crude oil storage cavern. These do look pretty interesting, so we'll put a couple just at the top there like that. And these are also storage facilities, just like the crude oil tank farms here. So having it on this same loop is a good idea. And then also, just for fun, I did talk about it a little bit. Off to the side here, what I'm going to put in, let's use the small industry road. Just off like this. We're going to throw in some of the large oil drilling rigs. Just a couple, like that, just for decoration. They will produce a little bit. Looks like once I start the game up, it might show us how much it's going to be producing. We take a look at our raw resources again, our natural resources. There is a little bit in the area, so it'll produce a little bit, but this is, right now, it's just kind of for a cosmetic. Actually, I'm going to split this off to the side a bit. I think that looks better. And then as for other buildings that we can add in, let's take a look. I think we can also add in the maintenance buildings. So these maintenance buildings, they add additional storage capacity of 5%. It doesn't say that it does have a limit to the number that we can put in, but honestly, with the number of storage buildings that we have, we don't really need too much additional storage. So these maintenance buildings are going to be put in kind of for cosmetics more than anything. So we'll throw in a couple here. Let's throw one right in between these two other buildings, and we'll move this over just to make sure that it lines up properly. So that'll give us an additional storage for our storage buildings. And one last feature that I'd like to add is going to be a train. It's good to have a cargo train connection for your industry. We don't have one for our ore industry, but we do have one for the fishing, farming, and forestry industries over here. We actually have two. So I think it'll be a good idea for us to have a cargo train connection for our oil industry. We will need to put one in for the ore industry eventually, but for now we will have one just for the oil industry. And just like the other industries, we're going to put in the cargo train right now, but we're not going to connect it to anything quite yet. So I'm going to have it right off of that corner, and it's going to come straight down about 1,500 units from there. Just smooth out this corner like so. And then we're going to place the cargo train terminal right at the end of this road. Maybe not quite right at the end. We'll go 4 grid spaces from the end. Our terrain's a little bit messed up at the end here, but honestly not too bad at all. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And then eventually in a future episode, our train will be connected to the cargo train terminal right there. But for now, we're just going to leave it off. I still have to kind of figure out how I want to have the train for this area connected up. As you all know, I did go a little bit overboard maybe with this section over here. We're not going to do anything quite like this, but I need to figure out a way to have this section connected to our local and regional train network without having everything messed up. So we will leave that there and off for now. That's kind of just for a template, a placeholder, till we can figure that out. Now you may recall that I do like to have, let's see over here, I do like to have these little roundabouts to help control traffic going to the cargo train terminal. But we do have, because it is just a single road, it does sort of act like a roundabout as it is. So traffic can only come down this lower section of the road, loop around the end, and it does approach the cargo train terminal from the cargo bin side of the terminal itself. In effect, we do get the same result as if it was on one of those little roundabout loops, even though it's just on the one section of road. All right, so that I believe is everything in terms of buildings that I'd like to add. I'm going to go through and put in our water connection. And then power is the last thing that we're going to need for utilities. And we're going to come from across the way over here where we have our ore industry. We're just going to come across here in between our tailings pile and the main road going through the area. Let's see if we can come across here. And we'll put in a second line just because we can, similar to what I've done for the lines coming off of our nuclear power facility going to the ore industry. We'll do 2 lines going through the area here as well. I've let the game run for a little while after putting in the utilities. I wanted to give it a chance to equilibrate. I know it was going to take some time for the deliveries to come to our large crude oil tank farms and our oil storage caverns, as well as getting the first round of materials, raw materials, into our production facilities and also our warehouses along the outside edge over here. Everything seems to be running relatively well. The only issue that I'm starting to see is this intersection right here. It is starting to have a little bit of backup every once in a while. It doesn't look too bad right now, but I think if we look back here in a minute or two, we'll start to see a backup. So it kind of comes and goes. What I've gone ahead and done is I have removed the light that was at the intersection here that was causing some of the issues. Unfortunately, right now we are relying solely on the highway traffic to deliver our raw materials to all of our facilities here, and not only our oil industry, but our ore industry over here as well. So we're getting 2 industries worth of truck traffic going through this one road, and they have to go through this intersection right here as well. So once we get the train hooked up to our regional train network, most of our truck traffic will be focused and concentrated within the facility itself, and we'll see very few trucks going through this intersection right here. But for now, we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on it. You can see there's hardly even anything right now, but there is a lineup of trucks and cars and things like that coming to the area. So we'll just have to wait and see. Unlike our other industries over here, we don't have any intersections going off to either the fishing, farming, or forestry industries, so that does tend to smooth out traffic quite a bit. We may have to implement something similar to that over here. We'll just have to wait and see how this goes. And one other thing that I'd like to change, I was taking a look at the road layout that we've done. I'd like to adjust this section of road right here. I'm going to just change that from a one-way road to a two-way road. And the reason for that is we do have entrances to all of these production facilities right here. And if they were going to need to deliver materials to the warehouses, they would have originally had to go down and around and back up here. So instead, what they can do now is they can simply just go to this intersection and take a right and go up and around and hopefully cut their route in half and take a little bit less time for them to make their deliveries. You can also see the amount of pollution that it's starting to produce. The dead trees are a dead giveaway, literally, as well as the kind of discolored ground. So that's the reason, as I said at the beginning, why I wanted to have my barracks just across the way over here. And as for other additional buildings that I could think of, just sitting here watching things going, I'm thinking we're going to need to have some sort of firefighting facility. I think it would be good to have a dedicated firehouse for this area. So if we put it in right here at the entrance, it has coverage for basically everything. And then the other thing we're going to put in is going to be a fire watch tower. In the event of any forest fires in the area, our fire helicopters will be alerted to any fires and they can come and hopefully save our oil industry. So other than that, the very last thing that I'd like to do is I am going to go through and I'm going to do some decorating. I want to remove all of the dead trees in the area here, and then I'm going to offset that and plant some trees around the barracks because there is no pollution. I think that will look a little bit better than what we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera and see everybody here back in just a second. All the dead trees have been removed from the polluted areas around our oil industry. I did keep a few along the outside edge here that weren't showing any signs of being affected by the pollution. I have gone ahead and planted a bunch around our workers' barracks along the other side here. Everything is going pretty smoothly still so far. You can see the traffic, as I said, it does come and go, it backs up a little bit, but honestly not too bad at all. Our derricks, or our large oil drilling rigs off to the side here, they, as I mentioned, they are producing some of the raw resources for our oil industry, but you can see this one over here is starting to run low on natural resources, so eventually they're going to be producing nothing, and in which case I will just turn them off and have them there for decoration. So for a quick overview of what we've done and how we've created our oil industry here, I'm just going to go for our bird's eye view and go to the roads tool, just so that we can see the directional indicators for our roads. And then I can also click on one of these roads and use it as a little bit of a pointer, just so it's a little bit easier for everybody to see what I'm talking about. So our oil industry is set up just like all of the other industries in our city, where we have areas dedicated to each section along the supply chain. Now, just like the ore industry, our oil industry does not have an area dedicated to the extraction of raw resources. Unlike the fishing, farming, and forestry industries, the oil and ore industry raw resources are not infinite, and so that means they'll eventually run out. Instead, what we've done is we've set this up for the import of raw materials to use in the production buildings. On the right-hand side here, where we have our tank farm, we have dedicated this area to the storage of raw resources that are imported into the city. Up at the top, we have our production buildings. These production buildings will use the raw resources that get imported to produce goods and materials. On the left-hand side here, we have 3 warehouses that will store the goods and materials produced by our production buildings. And then lastly, the petroleum refinery, this big building that we have right here. This is a unique factory. I believe this is the first unique factory that we have in our city. And the unique factory uses the goods and materials produced by our production buildings to create a luxury good. So we have 3 steps in our supply chain. We have raw resources, production buildings, and then luxury goods right here. If we take a look at the roads going through the area, we have a 4-lane collector road that approaches the oil industry. And so trucks coming into the oil industry have 2 different options for them. If they're delivering raw materials to the storage buildings, they can go off to the right-hand side and deliver raw materials to the tanks or to the buildings up at the top here, and then take a left and come back straight out of the oil industry. Or if they're delivering raw resources directly to our production buildings up at the top here, they can go straight along this middle road and then either go left to the production buildings at the bottom here, or go to the very end and deliver to the production buildings at the top, and then loop back around and come back out of the oil industry. And then lastly, the buildings up at the top here, the production buildings, whenever they produce goods that need to be stored in the warehouse, they will leave their facility and come up and then deliver to either of the warehouses, depending on what I've assigned each of the warehouses to, what good they're storing. And we also have, I think it's this middle warehouse right here. This has metals, which is not produced in our oil industry. Instead, it's produced in our ore industry. So any trucks delivering to that warehouse will just go straight up the middle, and they can go along the outside perimeter here to deliver to that warehouse. And then lastly, we have our petroleum refinery, which uses the produced materials from our top production buildings here. And they will hopefully get deliveries from our warehouse along the edge here. And they will come along this main road and then deliver, and then back up around and return to the warehouse. And now in an ideal world, that's exactly how it would work. An ideal world, we would have trucks coming to deliver raw resources to our storage and back out, and then trucks leaving our raw storage facilities to the production facilities and then returning, production facilities producing, delivering to the warehouses, and then warehouses delivering to the petroleum refinery to create our luxury goods. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that, and a lot of the times we get imports, like I was saying earlier, directly to our production buildings, or not, and not to our raw resource storage facilities here. So it's a little bit of mix of both, but it does tend to work out in the end. And lastly, across the street, across the 4-lane collector road we have, we have our workers barracks that really doesn't see too much traffic at all. There's a car that comes and goes every once in a while, but honestly, it's really not much of anything. We do have our park. Chances are some of the traffic that we're seeing going through the area here is actually people coming to visit our park or our basketball court over here, and everything seems to be working out quite well. Actually, now that I'm sitting here, one other thing that I'd like to do, sorry, I don't want to go into there. I want to go into our industry info view, go into the policies tab, and we're going to turn on improved logistics, improved safety, and advanced automation, just to make sure that our oil industry is running as smoothly as possible. Eventually, we will have our cargo train terminal hooked up to our train network, but for now, we're going to leave it just relying on the truck traffic to import and export all of our materials. And that'll be it for the oil industry for Lakewood for now. I believe the game has called it Hamilton Refining Site. I couldn't come up with anything more clever than that, so we'll just leave it as it is for now. We'll wait and see how everything turns out once we put in the cargo train terminal. As I mentioned before, it's not actually set up to our regional train network at the moment, so we'll just wait to see how that goes once everything gets set up properly. Thank you all very much for watching this episode. Don't hesitate to leave a like, dislike, or a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about it. If you haven't subscribed already, don't hesitate to do so for more City Skylines content in the future, and I'll see everybody in the next episode.